Hello, I'm Anawoltos, and welcome once again to another episode where I respond to Rich Deem's Where Young Earth Creationism Gets the Bible Wrong. Now, let me just remind everyone that it is not my purpose to defend every young Earth creationist position. I am just defending certain hermeneutical concepts here and the logic behind them. So that's what I'm doing here. So let's get right into the action. We just talked about Ezekiel 31:14, where I showed that Rich Deem here did indeed take that a bit out of context, as it is not actually talking about literal trees, but is instead a metaphor comparing a tree to the kingdom of Assyria. So let's get back into the action then.
Used to say that trees do die. Deuteronomy 20:11 says, "Do not destroy its trees by putting an axe to them."
All right, let me get... Actually, no, I don't need a context for that. Yeah, okay.
Jeremiah 11:19 says, "Let us destroy the tree with its fruit. Let us cut him off from the land of the living." Is destruction equal to death? The Hebrew word translated destroy in both these verses is shakath, the same word God used in Genesis 6:13 and 3 other flood verses to describe what he is going to do to rebellious mankind.
All right. So let's take a look at Jeremiah 11:19. Just to double check the exegesis here. Jeremiah 11, and I gotta make sure I switch it over or people aren't gonna see what I'm talking about. All right, 11:19. All right. Because the Lord revealed their plot to me, I knew it. For at that time he showed me what they were doing. I had been like a gentle lamb led to the slaughter. I did not realize that they had plotted against me, saying, "Let us destroy the tree and its fruit." Okay, and this is in reference back to this part where it says, "The Lord called you a thriving olive tree with fruit beautiful in form." Okay, so this, of course, is not talking about a person. However, once again, that's just an exegetical critique. Now, Genesis 6:13. Let me take a look at that as well. Genesis 6. All right. 13. Okay. God saw how corrupt the earth had become, for all the people on earth had corrupted their ways. So God said to Noah, "I am going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. I am surely going to destroy both them and the earth." And the earth. And if the evidence that Rich Deem is using to imply that the word shakath, it can only refer to the destruction of beings that have nefesh chaya, which of course is not nefesh is not used in reference to plants, then he would also have to believe that the earth itself is alive in a sense similar to that of humans or plants and animals, which I do not believe is in any way an orthodox interpretation. So let's actually look up that word. So I'm going to do this on a third window here. I might not show it up, but let's get that. And let's look it up and on a lexicon. Oh, and there's even a Strong's number for it, which isn't the defining thing on anything, but okay, Shachath, or no, Shakath, really, Shakath, whatever. I'm just going to say Shakath, and we're going to assume that that's what it is. Okay, okay, so Shakath, to destroy, corrupt, to go to ruin, decay. Or Strong says, I'm using two different lexicons here, a primitive root, to decay, i.e. causatively ruin, literally or figuratively batter, cast off, corrupt, destroy, lose, mar, perish, spill, spoiler, utterly waste. Now, I do not believe that this is a terminology that is in any way exclusive to in any way exclusive to living beings. And in fact, okay, you know what? I'm actually going to show this. I'm going to show the Strong's index for this. Let me just set up my third window capture because I don't want to switch that down. So just a moment. Let's go full screen on that so it's easier to see. And I'm going to bring it up to the top. Here we go. So this is showing its Strong's number and the meanings of a word. And if you look down here, you see a whole list of verses that this appears in. So let's actually analyze whether the context of a word exclusively means the destruction of a living being. All right, so first, the earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. So that's a different context and is more in not a causative context, but in a more decaying context. And the earth was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted. Okay. And of course, it is the earth being corrupt here. So this isn't necessarily speaking about living beings, although we know that the corruption is that of living beings. However, the noun used is not one that implies life. With violence through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth, of waters upon the earth, to destroy all flesh. Okay. Flood to destroy the earth, flood to destroy all flesh. The Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even as the garden. Interesting. Even as the garden. Okay. 5 of the 30 righteous you will destroy. 40 of the 5 I will not destroy. Okay. For we will destroy this place because the cry. And it came to pass when God destroyed the cities of the plain that God remembered unto the brother's wife that he spilled it. Okay, so it's talking about it being spilled. The land of Egypt, the land was corrupted. The door, and will not suffer the destroyer to come. Okay, so that's talking about the plagues. Oops. Ooh, so it's using the New King James Version here. Interesting. I didn't mean to have that. There we go. Corrupt yourselves, destroy you, but not the trees for meat. Thou shalt destroy or cut them down. Okay. I know that after my death you will utterly corrupt yourselves, have corrupted themselves, intend to go up against them in battle to destroy the land therein. Enter into the land to destroy, sent forth unto Gibeah, and destroyed down to the ground of the Israelites that day. Gibeah in the second day, and destroyed down to the ground of the children of Israel. And the spoilers came out of the camp of the Philistines in 3 companies. The spoilers, I guess it would mean the defilers or something. And there came one of the people in to destroy the king, thy lord. Okay. And second page, with him and with all Israel they destroyed the children of Ammon, and thou wouldst not suffer revengers of blood to destroy any more, lest thou destroy my son. The people that were with Joab battered the wall to throw it down. That's very unambiguously not a living thing being used with this word shakath. A wall is destroyed there. Okay. So, and many of the other things were not, although implicitly they are people or living things, they are, the actual nouns are specifically cities or places, which, if you take it literally, does not mean that they're talking directly about destroying people, although we know that that is the implicit meaning. Okay, and all the palaces thereof with fire, and destroyed all the goodly vessels. That's also something that is not alive, that is being destroyed. And there's other references as well. So, destroy her palaces. Behold, the girdle was marred. And there's many other references. So anyway, I think we've established here that the word shakaf does not indeed refer to the destruction of biological organisms, but rather is a more general term that means destruction, not only in its definition, but also in its use throughout the Bible. Just like the word chaya does not mean carnivores every time it's referring to animals, as Rich Deem indeed pointed out in his chart.
It is the same word used to describe what God did to Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yes, it is.
Genesis 13:10 and 6 related verses. The same word is used for what God did to the Egyptian firstborns during that judgment. And in Judges chapter 20, shakath is used to describe battles between Benjamites and Israelites, in which over 65,000 men were destroyed.
And it also talks about them destroying walls and cities.
In reference to trees really does refer to death.
And again, do walls die? I guess they do, but is that really what they mean when they say that they destroyed the wall? But again, there you go. And okay, now let me be very clear. The reason I'm doing this, okay, isn't because I'm saying that plants don't die. That's not what I'm saying. That's what some people are saying, and that's what Rich Deem is responding to. What my response here is that Rich Deem isn't looking through the hermeneutic accurately, in that he is using some argumentation that doesn't actually prove his point. So again, my critique isn't of the young earth creationists so much as it is of this video. Just to emphasize, the critique is of this video. So even if he says something that is in favor of young Earth creationism, but the argument he makes is in some way flawed, I am going to point that out.
Isaiah 15:6 says, "The tender grass died out." Is this real death? The human word translated died out is kala. How is kala used in the rest of the Old Testament?
Just a moment. Let me actually
Here
switch
are
this.
3 of the many Old Testament verses that use the word kala. Exodus 32:10 says, "Now then, let me alone, that my anger may burn."
All right. Let's look up the term kala. All right. What is the meaning of kala? Pronounced kala, a completion adverb, completely. That's one meaning. Another one. Actually, let's switch over to the Strongs here. Again, I'm not doing this to try to disprove them. I'm just fact checking here. Also, destruction altogether, consume, consummation was determined, end, riddance. All right. And it is used 20 times in the Bible, in the Hebrew versions that we have. Okay. And of course, I'm not thinking about the textual variants and Old Testament textual criticism here. I'm just looking at what the generally accepted ones are. Okay, and that's talking about completeness. I don't know why this is here. Okay. Nevertheless, for thy great mercy's sake, thou didst not utterly forsake them for. Okay, that's talking about people. God of hosts, a consumption, even determined in the midst of the land, for the Lord God of hosts. That's, of course, Sabaoth, a consumption, even determined upon, full end, full end, full end, full end, full end, full end, full end. In my anger and great hailstones, in my fury to consume, spared them from destroying them, neither an end of them in the wilderness. Okay. Of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and determined that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. Now that's Daniel 9:27. And he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. Okay, yeah, it's the 70 weeks prophecy. But in the middle of a week he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering. And the wing of abominations shall be one who makes desolate, even until the consummation, which is determined, is poured out on the desolate. Okay. But with an overrunning flood, he will make an utter end thereof, and darkness shall pursue his enemies. The Lord will make an utter end. Affliction shall not rise up the second time, for he shall make even a speedy riddance of them that dwell. So that's very interesting. Kala is, of course, what's interesting about this is that the multiple meanings actually interlock, in that completion and destruction are in some way related. And that implies to me that when it talks about a completion, it means in the sense that, as it is translated in many times, a full end. And therefore, the terminology is not biological, or is not referencing the biological. although it is very frequently used in reference to the biological. So, because the actual etymology of the word does not imply that. So let's continue with the video. I think it's, there you go.
Word against them, that I may destroy, kala, them. 1 Samuel 15:18 says, go and completely destroy those wicked people, the Amalekites. Make war on them until you have wiped them out. Again, the word kala. Jeremiah 9:16 says, I will send the sword after them until I have annihilated, kala, them. So the Hebrew word kala, referring to death of grass, really is referring to death, contrary.
Well, it's not referring to death. That's the problem. It's referring to consumption and completion, which is not the same thing as death, although it can be used in that way.
To young earth teaching. Many Old Testament verses compare plant death to human death. In Job 8:11 through 13, it compares the fate of a papyrus without water with that of the godless. Job,
and again, that's not saying that a papyrus has agency or has nefesh, as is said in creation, where it doesn't talk about that, about plants. And again, let me just emphasize again, I am not saying that the creation story in any way explicitly implies that animals were immortal before the fall. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying here is that the argument for plant mortality, while it is very obvious that plants are a life form and that they thrive and that they die, and that I wouldn't say that the Bible is opposing that, the argumentation that is being brought here is very substandard, as the argumentation doesn't actually provide what is needed to state these things. The thing that the author would need to state to disprove the nefesh chaya argument.
14:7 through 10 compares a tree cut down with the death of a man. Psalm 37:1
and again, these are metaphors.
through 2 compares the fate of evildoers with grass that withers. Psalm 103:15 through 16 compares the days of a man's life to that of a flower.
And of course, let me just go back here and say, what we're looking at when we're doing a comparison or a metaphor is the actual aspects that are being compared. However, what Rich Deem is not looking at, or what Rich Deem chooses to look at, is expanding the comparison to mean more things than the comparison explicitly implies. And that would be like saying that when Jesus says, I am a door, that he is literally meaning that he is a physical door, which is not what he's saying. He's comparing himself to a door, and the comparison doesn't mean that Jesus is openable or that doors can make atonement for the sins of humans.
Isaiah 40:6 through 8 compares the lives of people to those of grass and flowers, and contrasts that with the Word of God, which stands forever. Likewise, in the New Testament, it compares human death to that of trees, grass, and flowers. Young Earth dogma requires that there be no death of any kind before the fall.
Again, no, it doesn't. Well, again, the existence of Young Earth dogma is, in my opinion, very suspect in the sense that there's no unified young earth position. There are many different young earth positions, so to imply that there's a sort of dogma that is common among young earth creationists is, in my opinion, really jumping the gun here. And of course, when they say that death of any kind happens before the fall, what they're saying is that categorically, plants are different than animals. Categorically. Not that plants are incapable of death. What they're saying is that plants are categorically different from animals, which is something that you have not disproven, as their argument is that of nefesh chaya, and their argument states that nefesh is not used to refer to plants, while it is used to refer to various animals as well as humans. And they are correct. And you may ask, well, etymologically, could nefesh be used in reference to plants? Well, the question is, do you believe that plants have minds, that plants have agency, or that plants have souls, or that plants have a living soul, as the word nefesh would imply one of those definitions? And the answer is, no one in the Bible uses nefesh in that manner. And therefore, the argument that you made to counter the nefesh chaya argument doesn't hold any water. Because if you are using the terminology of nefesh chaya to establish separate categories, and you acknowledge that nefesh chaya is valid as a category distinction, yet at the same time you fail to disprove that the category distinction of nefesh chaya does not distinguish plants and animals. Therefore, your point, unfortunately, fails. But I know that for some people this argument may be going a bit weird. So let me stop here, and next video, Rich Deem will be bringing up a new point to discuss. So hopefully this has been entertaining so far, or informative, or in some other way thought-provoking. And I hope that people enjoy this video. If you like it, do leave a like. If you want to see more, leave a subscribe, or leave a subscribe, what's that? Do subscribe, and in the comment section, perhaps give some suggestions for maybe another video to respond to. I'm up for anything except for smut. If you want to show up on my YouTube channel, feel free to contact me. I am happy to speak with pretty much anyone. So thank you all for watching, and I will be seeing you all next time on Wiltos over and out.